karaoke. I saw some energy there. I was just reading on Twitter, like an hour before this event kicked off, they were like, whatever you do, don't host panels on a Friday night because everyone just wants to drink. So, but we are here against the odds, breaking the cardinal rule, and I think we've had a blast. So, without further ado, the final panel. If you want to introduce your name, what project you're with, and then we'll dive right into the content.
Is this thing on?
Yep.
Fantastic. My name is Tito and Daniel. I'm one of the co-founders of PageDAO. And what was the other thing?
That's it.
Oh, cool. All right, we're done.
Keep it quick.
Hey everyone, my name is Jeroen. I'm the CEO of Persistence Labs. We build products around liquid staking and restaking.
I'm Dean Dribble. I am CEO of Agoric. We are a Cosmos-based layer 1 chain that does smart contracts in JavaScript for large-scale asynchronous code. Are there more mics?
No more mics.
Oh, okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Robert from Uni/UX team. We run it. I'm the tech lead.
Hi all, Fraser, CEO of Checked, where we build privacy-preserving payments for decentralized ID.
All right, so to kick things off here, how has the design space of DeFi expanded in Cosmos in the last 2 years? Where we were, what was possible, versus what we can do now?
Yeah. I mean, it went from just, as far as I'm aware, right? It went from just osmosis to all of the various DEXs and spots and perps and like everything that we've got now, including what you've got at Shade. Like we've gone from just a super simple market, which was like pretty simplistic liquidity pools, to pretty much anything you'd find in any other ecosystem, plus more, which to be fair, I would point to yourselves again for Shade. Like, I don't know many other protocols or like layer ones that have that. So yeah, I'd say we've gone from like 0 to pretty much the front and the back, like very quickly. Happy to be corrected if anyone knows someone that's like doing something that's wildly different.
I'm just saying that, like, you know, except the TVL and the user base, I think we outpaced on the design space Ethereum.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Except the user base. Yeah. 2 years ago, you didn't have a connected world. We were doing the roadshow for interoperability, and then Osmosis sort of landed a great showing of IBC. But there was this tipping point that we all pushed over that went from 0 to everyone was saying, oh yeah, we've been doing interoperability all along. But the other change is we've gotten all the way through to not just IBC connected sites that are deployed, and it's that we trivially do things that are notable and hard on other chains. I launch a chain, it's got a new token, I put up a pool on Osmosis, right? That's cross-chain, and you just did that on Thursday. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? And we've now added the bridges to these other chains, right? You know, XLR and Gravity and now Wormhole and those kinds of things. So we've taken that next step, and MetaMask Snaps, where we can just be part of this much larger crypto DeFi world. And those are big deals.
So two years ago, or I mean slightly over 2 years ago, DeFi on Cosmos was like so non-existent, like actually pre-osmosis, that we launched the first liquid staking token for Atom on Ethereum. So, I mean, I think that tells a lot about the state back then. I think it has changed a lot. We deprecated that product now, and we moved to the Cosmos side, where the ecosystem, I think, is flourishing in general. Like so many use cases now, in pretty much every DeFi vertical is kind of covered. And yeah, just an exciting place to build, I think, and with IBC can obviously do a lot more now.
Well, I mean, I certainly agree with everything everybody else is saying, but I also want to throw out, there's a new idea that's kind of floating around. I'm thinking AppCoin, right? So check it out. You can build an application that can live on an arbitrary IBC blockchain, or you can live on multiple IBC blockchains. And what's the thing that you send to every chain where you want to have action? Well, the token that you're creating that fuels your app or that runs your app, right? So to me, I think that an entire new frontier is opening right now, and me and this guy are going to explore this, and we're going to build it out together. So very exciting times.
Love it. So we've made huge progress in the last 2 years, potentially the most exponential. Just it's amazing how far we've come. That being said, what are the biggest challenges right now with respect to cross-chain, multi-chain applications in DeFi and Cosmos? What is the biggest friction point?
So that success, and the success of modular and the success of interoperability and app chains, creates this world of there's all these thousands of things happening, right? And you can manually carry an asset from one chain over hill and dale, cross 3 bridges, and finally do the thing you want to do at the other end, but it's manual, right? And if you're a new user coming in, instead of one clear entry point, you get, you don't get Robin Hood, you get a bunch of Robins all crapping on your head. I mean, there's just way too many things to encounter, and the answer is they just go away and do Web 2. Yep. And so we have succeeded at the thing we set out to succeed on, but it is only the first of maybe 2 or 3 or 4 phases. The next phase is, how do you wrap all that up into easy, simple user interface, user experiences where you are, where you can seamlessly use, assets and services. And so the challenge, and lots of people are working on that. Lots of good people are working on that. Either at the UI level or with PFM and Grid Router and so forth. But it's a really hard problem to build in that asynchronous world. Our orchestration thing that we've been talking about in a bunch of places is a solution to that. Other people will do that the hard way. We can do these kinds of things in some places, but that is the hard problem that needs to be solved in order to produce the next wave of apps.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Dean says, and that is definitely one of the big challenges. I think one other one that I see and then kind of see quite obviously from where we work, we rely heavily on IBC and ICA relayers, and I think that infrastructure part is to me still a challenge. You see operating those channels is actually not that easy. It's also economically not that viable for any of the relayer operators. So typically they get funded by grants, they get funded by foundation delegations, and I do think since we heavily rely, and everyone will actually continue to more and more heavily rely on those IBC and ICA and ICQ relayers, to have a very sustainable model there that makes it economically viable to keep on running that and have a really high uptime, high performance, good monitoring, all of these. And I think at the moment there's only a handful of teams that actually can do that, and it's because they get the grants, and it's not. I think it's not sustainable yet at this stage. So that's something that's definitely challenging at the moment.
And just to go ahead and kind of continue this, I certainly think that being able to access multiple different chains from the same Web 2-like application, that's the UX that people want, right? That's the thing that we want to deliver to everyone. And it's difficult to do because you have to start in one place and kind of gradually build from there to other places. But the thing is, we have some time to work with, right? So I think there is a challenge here, but I definitely don't see this as anything like an insurmountable hurdle or anything like that. I think the ecosystem should rather easily surmount this.
Yeah, so you guys were talking about tooling, that's definitely true. The problem also with tooling is funding, right? Because you cannot easily launch a token for tooling and get millions, right? So every builder prefers to have a chance to launch a token. Another friction is custody, right? So not only managing and doing all those transactions between the chains or protocols, but actually custody of your identity, custody of your wallet. There are institutional solutions. Most of them are focusing on Ethereum land. Especially for institutions, we lack a good support in Cosmos.
That's true. So a bit of a weird, switch that I'll kind of take is I think we need to be not looking within Cosmos for this stuff and just building a user interface that is just for Cosmos, because just to use a tangible example, we at Checked have a Cosmos version and then we have an ERC equivalent. And what our community of someone has figured out in that community is that the quickest route to bridge between the two is to go via an exchange where we, a centralized exchange where we have both listed. And so this is because there's nothing available that is super quick, super cheap between Cosmos and ERC, and transparently, a lot of our demand comes from Uniswap. So we're just seeing this path that the quickest thing that we can do is just go straight through this centralized exchange on the fly, go in one way, come out another way, and there's nothing really being done for that right now. And I think if we just build a single user interface which is like super slick for Cosmos, we're missing like all the liquidity in Uniswap. All the liquidity in like Ethereum. So I think there's like, there's problems to solve inside the ecosystem, but I think actually probably a better view is like, let's just go and do it for everything and do it in a way that's like super smooth that people really want to use. Yeah.
So, well, wonderful answers across the board there. I kind of want to take an interesting pivot here. It's a DeFi panel, but I want to touch on community briefly. A lot of single chains and apps tend to be sucked into a more isolationist mindset, just kind of due to the tribalistic nature of crypto. How do you foresee communities evolving and changing in tandem to this new multi-chain world? There's all this cross-pollination of everything. How do you foresee that impacting incentives and users and community?
I think to lean on what we've seen at ETH Denver, I'd love to hear the other panelists' view. I think compared to last year, almost all the events this year have been thematic. If you look at last year, it was very much ecosystem protocol driven. It was all driven by what are you building on, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Whereas this year it's deep in AI. For us, decentralized identity, decentralized reputation. There's been DeFi. There's maybe less NFTs, but it's still kind of there. This year, I would say the reason ETH Denver main event has been so quiet, or I think it has compared to last year, it's not just the market, it's that everyone is outside of these really specific events which are just on this specific topic, and you've got everyone from near Cosmos, Polkadot, anything, just on that topic, and be yeah, we now believe in multi-chain, we all agree on this, we're going to go down this path, and
Cosmos was right.
Yeah, exactly. And we're just going to go down this path, and we're some will win, some will lose, but we're all going to work together because we all believe in this thing. The fact that we chose different infrastructure does not mean that we disagree about where we're going. And I think that's probably a weird case of it doesn't touch on the point around incentives, but it's more around, I think we all know where we're going, and we've started to align that way instead of the tech that we chose. I still think we chose the right tech in this room, but yeah, I want to build decentralized ID and reputation stuff, and there are other people who want to do that too. They've got good ideas, they're on different tech, but I want to learn from them as well, and vice versa.
I would love to see communities concentrating around the product rather than a chain. Absolutely, this is the wrong narrative when we talk about the chain rather than the product. Because people will use a product, not a chain, they will interact with the product. And as I guess every one of us will agree that chain is just one of the means, yes, how we deliver. And yeah, we will, as we've done and Pastor said that believe in the multi-chain world. We see it already in Ethereum. The Ethereum narrative is not about shipping the applications. The Ethereum narrative is a settlement layer and security layer, and all those applications will be on layer 2s. So sooner or later they will realize, oh, where we are going with this communication and those communities. Yes, doesn't make sense to fight arbitration versus optimism, or fraction the capital between all of the different protocols. Not at all. I mean, do you see the bank, the balance sheet of the bank? The balance sheet of the bank is usually divided by jurisdictions, but not by a single, how do you say it? Organizations per jurisdiction rather than the deployment of the bank in each city, each unit right in the city. So,
You reminded me of a thing I've been talking about. When I push a button to get a hamburger to show up at my doorstep, right? I might argue about DoorDash versus Grubhub, but I couldn't care less whether it's on Amazon or Google. Right? I mean, that's not how you're picking apps. That's not how the rest of the world does any business. And so the tribalism is just. Interoperability has really leaned pretty hard on it. What we see, as you said, in ETH Denver is just a whole, it's like that same sea change where interoperability, suddenly everyone was connecting. Well, now everyone's connected and they're realizing that, that the market is out there, and that's where we all gotta go.
I just want to say, like, with all respect to Ethereum, I'm a little bit, like the narrative, yes, of the settlement layer and applications and builders, right? Sooner or later, yes, like all these layer 2s will realize that what they need is efficient communication layer and proving system, right? Rather than like a bottleneck.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with a lot of the points, and I mean, I must say, like, from being inside like Cosmos for a pretty long time, like I feel like that those communities have kind of always been working together already. I feel that, like, at least there is not that much friction, I think, between projects itself, like any other project within Cosmos, at least that I talk to. I think everyone's always open to collaborate. I think it's a very open-minded community. Now I think I do feel that, like, even outside of Cosmos now, that becomes more and more true as well. But at least I think within Cosmos, I do see more and more projects and communities collaborating, even on kind of bringing community pools together, which is, I think, something new that actually Shade has now done with us, and we kind of launched a community pool together, we launched a pool, liquidity pool together from both communities. It just kind of tightens these bonds between both communities. There's a win-win for each of the projects, and I think over time, like, of course you can't like work together with everyone, but I do think like a lot of projects will have a lot of close ties with certain ones, and I think especially when it comes to like chain security, for example, restaking, you could potentially kind of leverage each other's security, mesh security, things like that. I do think you'll have very specific tight bonds between certain projects, and I think will only get more and more intense. Yeah.
Well, I certainly agree with that. Yeah, mesh security is a term that I've heard Sunny Agarwal throw around a little bit. And I think it sounds like a really cool concept. And the reason that it's cool is because we know from biology that meshes and ecosystems are fairly common in nature, and that they tend to be resilient. They can support a significant amount of complexity. And so what we're moving towards from the tribalism is I would say, more of a mesh in which you can have multiple different communities that have different focuses, different technologies that they're working on building, and they can be finding ways to align with one another and to cooperate and communicate and collaborate. Along the same way.
So I'll take the other side of the kumbaya, because that is all very, very positive. As things continue to become more intertwined as it pertains to capital, what risks do you guys perceive? Like, I guess what bad things do you think could happen in the next year or two with just the kind of this increasing world of interoperability? What are our blind spots? What are the long tail risks that Cosmos isn't talking about or isn't thinking about?
Well, I'll throw one out there right quick. If the mic is going to work. I guess maybe it's not going to communicate that much. Okay.
That one's already on, so now you just turn it on. Oh, is it good?
Hello.
Yep.
Okay, it's working. What are we talking about?
Risks.
Long tail risks. Yeah, so everybody remembers Terra Luna, right? So what happened there was that we had basically massive short interest that was sucking all of the liquidity, not only out of Terra Luna, but out of all of the meshed assets. Like, I was not a Luna investor. I did not hold Luna, but I still got nuked, right? So that is the risk profile of mesh. If you have something that gets too big, that gets too heavy, and then it falls over, it can take over the whole ecosystem. And we definitely want to be thinking compartmentally and not having really top-heavy sort of ecosystem partners that create all this risk that we then have to shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, just a small thing there is like, I mean, we're all building like building blocks in a way, and everyone is kind of, I'm building this block and you're building that block, and kind of all together, like, we build a cooler product. Like, we stack certain things, we stack yields, we stack risk, we stack security, and eventually, I mean, there is, I think, long tail risk, as you mentioned, and we have to just always realize that any block in the building can actually bring down the building if it's the wrong block or if it's kind of touched in the wrong way. And I think we have to be very aware of that with whomever you partner with, like whomever you work with, like that security always comes first. I think for us that's obviously very important. I think for many guys here as well. You just have to always be aware and never just kind of let it slide, because it's only one little moment of one little thing that goes wrong, one little oracle that is a wrong price, and everything can actually go down. And I think you just have to be very mindful of it and build accordingly.
So I had a different point which I'll get into, but like an extension of yours, which was like massive long tail, like way out would be just the investment into Cosmos SDK and Comet FED does not match what is needed to actually stay ahead of everything else from a technology perspective, especially with the way that like the hub's economics work out, the amount of like investment has to go into just the base layer, and I think that's where there's like debate around like should you join the AEZ, like, and is that really paying back to just invest into the tech under the hood that we're all transparently using? So I'd say that's probably one. Like, what if we do not stay ahead from a technology perspective, which I think is where we're at. We are at the moment. And then two flipping points were more around like pretty long tail, but we've got a centralization risk around like USDC and USDT, like which is pretty much setting Dean up for like probably yeah, here we go. But yeah, like it is a massive centralization risk, and like I'm from the UK, we work a lot with the EU. We would love to have a EU stablecoin on there. There isn't one at the moment, it would be great. But right now we're all in basically two assets which are like have their own like weaknesses. Right, deep.
I actually, by the way, would really like a euro dollar, right? So dollar denominated, but not U.S. controlled, right? You know, that kind of thing. As a direct support to ISD. I have a completely different risk, though that centralization one is one that people, I'm really astonished the extent to which people are going, oh, let's start, have everything be based on this thing that is centrally controlled and subject to the U.S. government. Nothing wrong with that. We use that a lot, but that should not be the underpinning of the economy that we're all building. But I think the other big risk is not delivering user value, right? That to me, it's plausible. So I'll make a bold prediction that this is the last cycle. Right, because at this point, people are going to deliver user value, and then you're done, right? Cloud programming is there. It had a couple ways, but we're just doing cloud programming now. We're going to get there with crypto, and and with all the ETFs, with all the extent to which Web2 Financial stayed in during the bear market and kept building, there is enough understanding or sort of thinking about, yes, I know how I could use this now in my business, not just, oh, wave the magic, pixie wand of crypto and everything will be better. It's like, no, I understand how I would use this for ticketing and what I might want to do, how I would use it for IP management and what I would want to do. All these prosaic things that are the multi-trillion dollar, $10 trillion market that we all want this stuff to grow into, that plausibly happens this cycle. And if it doesn't happen in Cosmos, then you're done, right? And I think it can happen in Cosmos. We've got a much easier route to build lots of different alternatives and have them all cooperate with each other, but it has to happen. And so people really need to keep their eye on the ball of what does it take to solve somebody's problem that they will pay money for.
So if we accidentally lose the plot and end up creating infrastructure instead of serving users.
Yeah, I mean, I like second mid, but there is more than that, right?
But that's required. There's lots more. But
Speaking about the risk in Cosmos specifically, I would like to refer here to Fraser about the investment. I think you made a very valid point. Investment in tooling in Cosmos is bad. Is literally bad. Like, we need to find a way how we improve it. IBC specifically, there are like a few organizations moving IBC forward. There's not even enough research. There are so many things we can do, and on the protocol level, on the user level, user tooling, yes, and we are behind it. Not enough people are investing in that. Not enough projects are investing in it, unfortunately. And that, I think, is a big risk for Cosmos. Because even like the idea of the interchain world might be without the Cosmos, and we don't know. Other than that, I see only opportunities.
Would you say it's the onus is on the DeFi protocols to invest in that core deep infrastructure that's underfunded? Because there's like the layer ones, and then there's the dApps. Like, do you think in many ways it's the dApps, since they're creating the value, that should be reinvesting in these things? Or how do we solve that problem, right? Like, we're acknowledging massive tail risks. And I'm curious what you guys think as like the solution.
I mean, there are like many angles around that, right? Like, you know, on one hand side, big protocols, they will try to build their own tooling. But then again, you have the interoperability, so a user of Agoric will like to interact with, I don't know, identity on check, take a loan on Umi, but at some point, it has a loan on Umi and he would like to interact with Umi directly and not use the Agoric wallet. Maybe with orchestration that will solve us on that, but my point is that it's still far away. As far as I know, orchestration doesn't work yet, right? Doesn't work yet.
Yeah, it's March, so it's a month away. Not that far.
Yeah, so.
No, it does work. It's just a test.
So, yeah, I mean, there are like few protocols which are advancing on that part, but the risk is there.
Let me actually, for entertainment value, disagree. What we have in IBC, in the bridges that we have, compared to what we could have in 10 years, obviously suck, right? But they are obviously so much better than what we have anywhere else. We have enough to deliver amazing products, right? So rather than continuing to make them better, which we all want to do, and people are doing, and it is moving forward, but you know, there's a limit to how far you go investing in leverage before you apply the leverage to solve a problem, right? You can make a bigger lever, but until you lean on it, nothing ever happens. And so what I want to do is have some big successes that leverage the amazing stuff that we've built, and then their job is to spend a crap ton of money making it better so the next one is easier. But, you know, IBC is amazing. You know, the ICA is amazing. The bridges are amazing. ICQ is amazing, especially for what a god-awful hack it is. I mean, you know, and you can do stuff with it. Let's get out there and show people what a big, you know, what power it has, and then we can do the next round. Because the thing is, it's so easy to theorize what you will need when you aren't building a use case. When you go to build a use case, you go, oh, yeah, I guess, yeah, we missed a spot, right? You know, and that's the problem that needs to be solved in order to make all this stuff happen.
Yeah, one more thing here is that, you know, many of us are building protocols, and the protocols are usually for engineers.
Yes.
And if you want to onboard a billion users, then, you know, we need to have those people who will put themselves into the customer shoes and start working.
That's what I was going to say. The biggest risk is we don't talk to the users and we build in a silo, and then years go by and there's so much wasted time and
We're all
energy.
technologists. It's endemic.
Yeah, but also maybe a little bit referring back to your question is how we fix this tooling and investment. I mean, I would have my own personal, let's say, opinion about, like, you know, my opinion doesn't work in Cosmos. Right? We need more collaboration between, or contribution, back contribution, yes. Agoric is contributing on IBC. There are a few things contributing back to the Cosmos SDK stack. DYDX, Bella recently, right, is doing a good job contributing back to the Tendermint Common BFT stack, right? But if you see, if there are, let's say, 100 Cosmos projects, I'm a core contributor to the SDK. I was a lead engineer. Then I think I can count in one hand the amount of people who are contributing back out of this 100 chains.
Yeah, and I'll like hold our hands up. Like, we're guilty of that. Like, we are built on Cosmos SDK, Comet BFT, like, but we have not yet contributed back. We've not hit, apart from like some pretty niche like investigations on relaying and packet forwarding, like, which is just because our CTO is a genius in terms of like infrastructure. It's just not like, we've built a load of value on top of it. We've had nothing to contribute back, and I think there's a weird case of like, even if it's not engineering, it would. I think there is value to like either via like AZ or by funding, just like chucking something into it. Like we do value where we got this from, and it's not just that we're like running off and building upon it. It's like we just haven't found something that's our niche to contribute back yet, and there will be something. But in the meantime, like we really value where this came from in the first place.
Okay. I have to disagree. I completely disagree. So a thing that I find value about what you guys are doing is reminding people that privacy matters, right? Real businesses and real people need privacy. One of the weirdest things about crypto is the extent to which everything is so transparent. That's amazing and wonderful and relevant, but I don't want to live in a fucking world where I don't have privacy. So keeping that ball bouncing into the cosmos so people pay attention occasionally, so that 5 years from now we all go, yeah, we really should make, we've now got this tech we can pull in somewhere. I think that's critical. So you and Noma, Penumbra, all those, I think that's just really important to have that voice in the corner. Secret, yes.
I love it. It feels good. We'll round this out because it's getting late. It's 4 years from now. The stars have aligned. What is your favorite user story? Describe it. Close your eyes. Picture it. What does it look like if all the stars align with DeFi and what Cosmos can live up to?
I publish, read, and trade books for economic benefit, use, relationship maintenance, knowledge, and I do it all with total control over my own privacy.
For me, it would. No, that's okay. That's okay. I think it's working. Yeah. For me, it would probably be something around yield optimization through vaults that kind of use cross-chain transactions to make it super easy for the user. So let's say your user comes in, says, I have, let's say Adam, I want yields, and I'm happy to be exposed to, let's say, IST in using that strategy. I'm happy to be exposed to, let's say, UMI or and I know exactly how much yield I'm going to get through liquid staking, typically liquid staking yield or restaking yield by that time. And it's a one-click journey for that user to kind of generate yield from using multiple protocols across chains. To me, that's a solid story, and that's what I'm working on as well.
A little bit of like a surprise, I guess. So my dream would be to see SBF, Suzu, Mashinsky in the prison, staying there, among other different politicians, and yeah, like getting all the mess and shit out of this world.
Might take a bit of explaining if it doesn't tolerate, but like a multi-billion-dollar market for identity revenue-backed security market. Whole new market, whole new asset class with multi-billion dollars in volume regularly would be cool.
My immediate reaction was, I get time to program again. But with AIs, it's not clear that 4 years from now that's a thing. But AI safety actually is, and one of the things that blockchain brings is that ability to, if the thing at the other end, you've got, the value of smart contracts is enforcing the terms of cooperation between strangers. And if you've got that working for you, then it doesn't matter whether the stranger is an AI. Right? It doesn't matter whether the stranger is an enemy if they're doing a business and you can do that business, right? And it's one of those things where, having more structured cooperation leads to a more cooperative world. I want to see that measurable, both in the level of technology and standard of living that we've done, and the extent to which I'm able to cooperate with strangers farther away from me in the world more often, more easily, and more automatically. And I think that we're all building that, and that's awesome.
Tonight, we saw what it means to be frictionless, and what we found is there was a lot of friction. But the good news is that one day at a time, we get a little bit closer to the ideal, which is to be frictionless and decentralized. Thank you, everyone.
it really was. Doing a great job documenting.